On Sunday, October 23rd, 2011, we went on a road trip to visit some friends who were harvesting soybeans. They have a farm near Tipton, Iowa. So from Iowa City, we drove east on Interstate 80, which you can see here, and then made our way north on some of the smaller back roads. Many of these are gravel roads, and it was a lot of fun to see the countryside from that vantage point. Usually when you're on the interstate, you don't get to see the scenery as well as when you're on these back roads. Coming up here in just a minute, you'll see kind of an unusual sight for an Iowa countryside, and that is where this gravel road goes through a pretty thick cluster of trees, and it makes for a really nice drive because on either side of the road you have these trees, and it's a good spot for wildlife to make a home there. And it's just a nice change of scenery. Usually, when you're out driving around in Iowa, it's pretty much corn or soybeans as far as the eye can see. So it's nice to have a little break in the scenery there. Farms in Iowa are kind of like islands in what otherwise is just this large ocean, as I said, of soybeans and corn and fields that kind of stretch on as far as the eye can see. So it's interesting to kind of, from the vantage point of a farm, look off and as if you're on the shoreline of the Atlantic or Pacific Ocean, seeing the ocean going off to the horizon, you see like this ocean of fields. And this day in particular was really nice because the sun was very bright, so it made for very crisp video recording. So that was why I really enjoyed doing some video this day in particular. Here you can see, just looking, turning kind of clockwise, I guess, looking at the horizon, it's just really beautiful. The clouds were scattered around in the sky, but otherwise it was a really bright, sunny day. In the winter and summer months, the countryside is pretty quiet, but in the springtime and fall, you can see these trucks going by that are busy with activities relating to the planting and the harvesting season. So it's kind of interesting to see the hustle and bustle out in the countryside as people get busy, in the month of October, heading into November, getting the fields all cleaned up. And here you can see in the distance some of the equipment that we're going to be looking at a little bit closer. I like seeing this grass along this kind of a little valley where the stream was going through, and you can see everyone walking off there into the distance from this stream area, which is kind of drainage basically. It's really important to have good drainage in fields so that you don't end up with your crops being either inaccessible or washed out. Here again, looking at the horizon, you can see just how massive this space is, and I'm going to give you a close-up here of the rows of the soybeans in this case. It's kind of interesting to see how straight these rows are. As soon as you turn the camera and start looking down the row, you can see that. Coming up here on the right, you'll be getting a glimpse of the wagons that are used to load up the grain from the combine. And kind of in the center here you see the combine coming toward us. On the front of the combine there is a special unit that's installed on this tractor-like machinery, and it's designed specifically for harvesting soybeans. And you'll get a closer view of that once we're inside the combine and it's moving along. The wind in the fields is so strong that the grass continues to blow just in one direction. So even when the wind stops, you can see that the wind has had an impact on the grass, and the same is true for the soybeans, depending on obviously the location. But in this location, the soybeans even are growing at an angle from that. Here you can see a close-up of the combine, and there it's backing up and getting ready to take another run at the field. The combine separates the soybeans from the stalk, and the stalk gets ground up and blown out the back of the machine. It looks like smoke almost. Here you can see the dust. And as the combine continues, you can monitor it on this computer display to see what the moisture content of the beans is and other various characteristics as you're going along. There's a GPS in the tractor to then later map out where you've been, what the yield was, and what the moisture content of the beans was. Here there's you can see the soybeans going into a carrying truck or a wagon, and that's being pumped directly from the tractor, from the combine, into that wagon at high speed. It takes just a few minutes to unload, maybe 500 bushels there. And these tongs, you can see, go down and they pick up the plant. If it has fallen to the ground, they sort of lift it up a little bit, and then it's easier to cut it off at the base of the stalk, so the entire plant can be processed in the combine. As you can see here, it's getting pulled into the combine, and then once inside, the beans get separated from the stalks. This particular combine is about 20 feet wide. It can handle quite a few rows. Some are even wider, I guess up to maybe 40 feet. And here you can see the field stretching off into the horizon. So as we were heading back home, on the road back home, it was really just an end to a beautiful day. The clouds were still hanging in the air there, and then as you can see in this panoramic video shot going from left to right from the view from our home, the sky was getting more colorful as the sunset was approaching, and in this next shot coming up, you'll see the sunset at the end of the day after dinner, and it was pretty spectacular. This video was recorded, edited, and produced using Apple iMovie on an Apple iPhone 4.